What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the LA Soccer Hub Show. My name is Gio Garcia. Man, the season starts this weekend, this Saturday. Man, it starts off with a bang. Both of our LA clubs here, LAFC versus LA Galaxy, starting off the season. You got an Apple TV. Everything is going to be at the Rosebowl. As you can see here, the newspaper here that the LA Galaxy ended up sending to us. You can see there, it's finally happened. It's going to happen. There's a lot going on this week. We're going to talk about everything, some of the expectation, individual players' expectations, what we see. There's also news about that just broke earlier today about the new MLS format, and I think how that changes a lot of things and what certain games, certain tournaments could be more important than others. But here to help me talk about all that, we got my man, Andy Diosef, back again. Andy, how you doing, my man?
What up, Jill? Good to be here, man. Happy the season's finally here. It's a lot going on, but like you said, we starting it off with a bang, starting it off quick. And for the people that's watching on YouTube, I know you see the drip. For the people listening on
Hey.
Spotify, I appreciate y'all too. But
Yeah, Andy, for those listening, Andy has the LA Soccer Hub with the checker flag there. He's rocking it. So I always appreciate the
sure.
support. But yeah, man, there's so much going on this week, which is exciting, and the way the league had decided last season to start off with LAFC versus LA Galaxy, and obviously at the Rose Bowl. With all that going, what are your thoughts? Just a brief thoughts on that, and then we'll get more into it later in the pod.
I think it's exciting. I think this is probably the most anticipated MLS season ever. If you factor in the Apple deal, if you factor in all these different things that are happening, and just starting it in this way, they roll out all these new things for Apple. They have this pregame show that's going to be crazy. Obviously, they're working on the whip around program that's going to be like almost a red zone type experience for soccer for MLS. And then they have the post game, and then like you have all these games happening around the league. Pretty good matchups, unique commentary, duos and whatnot. But the big one is LAFC, LA Galaxy at the Rose Bowl, and there's just so much around it that it's just like it's. I know on paper it's like okay, it's the first game of the season. It's just a big venue, but it's like you factor in history for the Galaxy there. You factor in the fact that LAFC is coming off of winning MLS Cup and Supporters Shield. You factor in the supporters boycott. Like there's just so much around this game, but it's monumental, man. I think that from talking to people in MLS, in MLS front office and Apple people, like they're just excited about this as an event. There's going to be a lot of people at the Rose Bowl, fans and important people as well that will be on site, and it just shows the growth of the league. So I'm excited for it, man. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, me too. I think there's just so much that's going into it. You added all the different drama. We didn't expect obviously Galaxy fans to be boycotting the club and everything. We'll get more into that, but there's so much going on leading up to the game, and even the day prior, they're having some type of media event or fan event. The day prior, with I think Steve Sharundle, head coach Steve Sharundle from LAFC, and obviously LAFC, LA Galaxy head coach Greg Vanny as well. So there's a lot of hype, and I'm very excited. I saw a little bit of the preseason game snippets. Let me put it this way: that they showed. I think it was a Galaxy game. How I'm already seeing different angles
Yeah.
that ESPN or Fox Sports didn't do for MLS that Apple TV or Apple is doing for MLS, and it's kind of almost feels like what ESPN does for like NBA or the NFL, right? And I think to me that's the one thing I hated. Whenever games, unless it was a big game, you would get all the different angles. But when it was just on regular TV or regular MLS TV, they wouldn't get all the angles. We wouldn't get all the the replays and all that. So I think with Apple, they're going all in. They know that this is their product because this is Apple's product, how they're gonna show it to the world. And I'm excited to see all the different angles from the replay behind the goalkeeper. That's a camera that I feel like we're gonna see a lot more. So I'm excited for it. And that just speaking in terms of every game, I hope it's that way for every single game,
Right.
regardless if it's the ninth seed or the last team, right? I think the quality of the production, the quality of the game, regardless if it's the number one team in the MLS or the bottom tier of the MLS, the production quality should be the same all the way throughout. And I feel like that's what we're gonna get with Apple, with all the investment, with the broadcasters, and you were talking about like the red zone type of channel and all those different things, because that's one way you grow the sport when you have such an amazing production behind an amazing sport that we have here, and I think it's only going to grow. let's talk. Oh, you were there. You were there. I'll let you go a little bit more. You got to see a little bit before the season. You went to the Apple headquarters and stuff like that. What would you just take about that experience, being up there, and some of the things that you saw up there? I think what was in January.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little bit about what you kind of just said. I think that the production level just is innovation, and Apple as a company obviously knows about that. But I think that that's one part that from the inside, people that are working on it, people that are involved, are very, very excited about the production levels, because you have to understand this. Like, they have all of this capacity to do different things, and it's new, so it's a lot of trial and error. But it's fun because they're the ones that are going to set that up. So they're going to see whatever works, whatever doesn't work. And do remember, this is a 10-year deal. Like, for 10 years at least, they're hoping that it's more, obviously. But what we see, this weekend and this season is going to be completely different from what we see in the future. And that's just going to keep evolving. So I think that that part is pretty cool. Just from talking to people there in Apple, they're just very excited. I wanted to make sure that, like, there's always a kind of a divide when it comes to soccer and sometimes MLS. And I was happy that a lot of people there were like transparent about, like, hey, we're not the biggest MLS fans, but we're excited to learn about this and
Mm-hmm.
have this be an opportunity for us to, get involved and see how the league is, because it's not only just going to be a business partnership. There's going to be millions and millions of opportunity for everybody in the company, MLS, just partnership stuff that they're hoping that this kind of changes the landscape of sports broadcast in general. If other leagues start looking at, chances of kind of doing something like this. So I think it's just an ambitious project. There's obviously going to be, they're going to have bumps in the road, but as they should. Like I said, this is new for them. The excitement is just there, though. MLS is obviously super excited about it. I think Apple more so, and they see it as a big opportunity. And I mean, every I feel like every season in the offseason, we always talk about the same thing about MLS, is how much it's growing, the players that are in the league. And I
Mm-hmm.
think for that trip to Apple, for there to be a World Cup champion in the room like Thiago Almada, who was just coming from Qatar, winning with Argentina, for him to be part of like this is just like, you're standing there like, wow, there's like this league from what it started to what it is now is crazy. And that's their thing. Like, what could it be in 10 years when, is the time frame for this partnership, and what could it be beyond that? So I had one good conversation with the boss that was kind of running the whole services projects at Apple, Eddie Koo, and he basically was like, listen, 16 years ago, we dropped the iPhone, and like
Mm-hmm.
nobody knew what the iPhone was going to be. And look where we're at now. And I'm like, man, that just like puts things in, I guess, in motion and perspective of like, wow, like things happen quickly, but you kind of have to take a step back to realize how that transformation does evolve. And I think that the opportunities are endless. So yeah, man, it's gonna be something serious for sure.
Yeah, look, and also MLS partnering with one of the biggest companies in the world, in Apple, and you said we've known what they've done with the products and stuff. Even they have a couple good Apple shows and everything like that. I think, to me, I think with the business side of Apple, what Apple has done, just to create it of what they've done. I think, what is it, like a $1 billion deal for 10 years? To me, I
Yeah,
think that's like a steal for Apple. I know when you say $1 billion, nothing's a steal at $1 billion, but when you think in terms of what they've been able to do and produce, I think what that averages out to 100 million a year. Yeah, I think Apple is really going to win. I think everybody's going to win, but I think what Apple can do, especially what the World Cup's going to be here in America in what, like 3 years, right? 2026. By
mhm.
3 years, they should obviously. Oh, this is the first trial run. There's going to be a lot of bumps in the road, but like I think by the time the World Cup comes around, the product, you expect the product's going to be better. A lot of things are going to change and everything like that. And how many people, look, I got an iPhone, right? I got an iPhone. How many, I don't know if you have an iPhone or whatever, but like there's so many people around the world that have an iPhone. And now that MLS, look, I know we got to pay for the Apple or the MLS season pass or whatever, but if you're able to produce the content, right, and everybody has access to it, say Apple does, hey, this LAFC versus LA Galaxy, like a year from now, it's free. If you have an iPhone, it doesn't matter if you have Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You can watch that, and I think MLS will be able to reach a lot more people than the average. I don't know, than doing it by themselves. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think that's a possibility that we could see Apple being able to, because they're also doing baseball stuff. So I think it's smart on MLS. I think Apple's going to do a lot more. for the MLS that they can do for themselves, that they've been able to do for themselves in the production side of things, of showcasing the game and everything like that. So it's very exciting, and I'm very excited to see what Apple does.
Yeah, two quick things on that, Gio.
Go ahead,
First of
go ahead.
all, all the games on the first week are free. So anybody that does have
Oh,
Apple
there
TV,
you go. See, I didn't even know that.
any game the first week, and they're all going to be free. And their plan for the season is there's going to be 6 games a week that are free, that are not. You don't need the Apple TV MLS Season Pass subscription. So I think we don't know how that changes, if the price point is going to change over the years, but the opportunity is there for people to get involved and see if they like it. Instead of just putting a flat rate, they're letting people pay monthly to, kind of trial and error type thing. So, I mean, the price is always going to be a talking point for anything that you put out. But like you said, that opportunity to get people to watch or want to be invested, I think that it does help, because there's ways, and it's going to help grow. And the second point was, and speaking to your boy, Mark Anthony K, up there in January.
Internet connection. Oh, there you go. You still there?
Yeah, I'm good. You hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. You last thing I heard was the 6 months.
Yeah,
or the
so
6
6
games.
months,
The 6 games.
6 games. A week is going to be about. It's going to be free, so it won't be for the season pass. You don't need the season pass to access those. And then, like I said, we just don't know how that's going to maybe change just over the years, or the price is going to go up or down. But the opportunity to get people there invested and want to watch is obviously a thing that they are trying to do. And even today, if you have T-Mobile, you can get a free code for the season. So there's just ways. And then the second thing is, and talking to your boy Mark Anthony K up there in January, I had asked him specifically because it's an interesting thing to me how the players perceive this, right? And for them, they're happy because obviously they're watching the league. They need to see who their opponents are, they need to see how their friends are doing. So it makes it easier for them. And then also he kind of put it on a perspective for his family being in Canada, who didn't really have much access to his games when he was playing in LAFC or playing with the Rapids. Obviously now being in Toronto, they would have had more access because it's local. But just think about players that have families that are not from the U.S. that now have one place that they could just go and watch these games. So it's crazy, but it's dope.
Yeah, and you're right. Worldwide audience now, just being able to partner there, and I think, look, even us here in LA trying to watch out with all these different. The biggest thing was also going to here, like when the Galaxy was on Spectrum, or
Right.
you could only get the game on ESPN, but if you had ESPN Plus, it was blacked out. I was like, this make no sense. I'm not
No
subscribing
sense.
to 3 different things.
Yeah.
I ended up finding the site. Look, and I watched the games for free, or hopped on Discords and all that. So yeah, those days look like they're finally over. We have it all under one roof, and it's exciting. Let's talk about this playoff format, because it is interesting. Look, I didn't read the article, but I just read some of it. I don't. The guys from over there, Athletic, broke the news out. And I'm just gonna give off the top 3 things that they wrote on their tweet. So it's going to be a wild card game for 8th and 9th seed as single elimination. There's going to be a best of 3 for the first round, no draw. So that means the first round teams are going to play. So let's put example, let's say LA Galaxy and LAFC play in the first round for whatever reason. They got to play each other 3 times, and there's no draws, which is, I think that's crazy that they're going to play each other 3 times in the first round. And then the last 3 rounds are single elimination. That just, I don't know. That to me, just off the bat, is just like, okay, you play first 3 and then a single elimination. I don't know. I don't know. I don't get it right away. No draws. Yeah. So give me your thoughts. Those are just the things that I just saw, read from the tweet. What are your thoughts on this new playoff format? Because it also increases a lot more games for the players, the coaches, everybody involved. What are your thoughts on the new playoff format?
Yeah, that's my my one takeaway is just adding more games to a schedule that's already super packed. With them introducing the Leagues Cup the way they did this year, obviously there's a few teams that are going to be playing CONCACAF Champions League. So I think that if you think about just adding more games, it just doesn't make sense from that way, because we're going to get to a point in MLS season where some teams are going to be like, hey man, this game is just not important today. Like it is what it is. And then you're going to get it kind of into the situation where we see with the NBA, where players are going to want to sit, and they're going to have to, because you also have to factor in players go on international breaks. They play with national teams, so they're playing more games there. Like, it's not going to be a lot of rest throughout the year. So that part is weird. The one thing that I do know about the playoffs is that it just adds another level of excitement. And obviously for MLS and Apple to create more meaningful games is what they're saying. is okay, sure. But I think that best out of three is just kind of like weird because you're going to get a home and away basically, and say, each team wins one, then you have to play that third one. I could see situations where that third game is going to be incredible. Like it's like we both won one. Now we're playing one to get, but it's just like, do you need to play 3 games just to get to the next round? Like it's a little much to me. The single elimination, I think it works fine. I think it's just, you have one game. I think the higher seed deserves to have the home field advantage. Like that's why you have an incentive in the season to play better, because you want to get those top 4 spots to get a home seed. So I think that part is, just is normal. But yeah, like, oh, we're not going to have any ties. We're just going to play, and they're going to go straight to penalties if it's tied, no extra time. But then when they get later in the playoffs, when it's conference semifinals and conference finals, then they're going to have extra time. So like, it just seems like it's all over the place, honestly. I don't think that players are really going to like it, but my takeaway is like, you need to establish a system. And I think that for as much as we talk about MLS growing and having, things trend in the right direction, this is a bad look because they're just announcing this. Well, the information came out today. They're officially announcing it later this week. But Phil Neville talked to a few of the Athletic guys the other day, the Inter Miami coach, and he had something to say about this. Like, we're 7 days away from the season. We don't even know what the playoffs look like. We don't know what MLS Cup is. Like, all of that stuff had just been secret until when this gets announced officially. So it's like, that is not good for the players, for the coaches, whatever, to plan out. It's just a bad look to have a format change so much when you're talking about something like the playoffs, which already
days before the season,
right? Days, and it's already a big conversation to begin with, because how many players tell you, well, Supporter Shield's the real championship if you have the best record in the league, but then you got to get to MLS Cup playoffs, and it's like a new tournament, and it's just like, I get it, but once again, you're adding that into a year where you're putting this League Cups tournament, making it a World Cup style. I feel like they're doing just a little too much. Like that wasn't necessary, because I think the playoffs were fine the way they were last year. Honestly, the one thing I do like is that playing game. Like, for the lower teams to have a wild card, that's cool. I think wild card games work. But besides that, they should have just left it how it was. I think there was nothing wrong with it, and I think it just gets it done easier, gets it done quicker, and then you just move on.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if the only thing they went too aggressive without adding, look, if they knew that to me, the biggest thing I tweeted this about earlier today, if it just seems counterintuitive that you're going to add more games in this playoff and you're going to want to make it more entertaining, all these different things. But why not add more roster depth, flexibility? You want these players to play more games. You should pay them more, because you're going to make more money off the ads and the revenue, all this stuff. Like, you should share that money. And I think to me, it just seems like, why not? Why didn't, if you knew this was going to happen, or if this is a last minute decision, which I hope it's not, which it kind of seems like it, why didn't you add like a 4th DP? You know what I'm saying? Like, why didn't you add a 4th DP? Because if you want all these teams to play these games, okay, add whatever, add more games, add more player, add more ref, add more depth, more flexibility, and all these different things, because then it makes it easier to be like, okay, maybe so-and-so, like example, let's say Carlos Vela or Chicharito's maybe not going to play all this, but they have another 4th DP or something like that, and I think it just, to me, I think it's just going to water down the regular season. To be completely honest, it's going to water down the regular season. What 18 teams? How many teams do we got in this in MLS? Is it 20, 29, 28?
29.
So it's like almost like a 70% chance of everybody making it. Let me just do the math. Like, so I mean,
7 or something like that.
65 if it's 29.
Yeah, somewhere like that.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. 7, yeah. So it's like, yeah, it just makes no sense to me, and I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just like, you just got to add more flexibility to increase, because it just, and I was even thinking about the national team breaks. Yeah, you have the national team breaks. Some people are gonna have to qualify. You have Gold Cup this summer. There's just a lot going on, and to me, I think it was an unnecessary change in the format. And I would just want to read this tweet from Jeff Reuter, who helped wrote that article he had mentioned here. He said, for teams like LAFC, Austin, Philly, Orlando, who I believe those are all the teams that got CCL, they got the CCL bid. MLS season games, there's 34 games in the regular season, up to 6 with the playoff, 5 in the US Open Cup. I think he's talking about if you go all the way.
You go all the
and
way,
up to
right?
7 League Cup games if you go all the way to the championship, and up to 8 CCL games if you go all the way to the championship. So that means that a team like LAFC, Austin, Philly, or Orlando, if they say they one of those teams tries to win, for whatever example, they win everything, right? They can potentially play 50 to 60 games this year,
It's just
which
not
is
enough roster space.
look, that is insane. There's no way. And I think I forgot someone. I saw someone tweet this. I don't know who tweeted this, but I think they said LAFC played last season with all the games that they played going to the championship. LAFC played 41 games, I think,
Yeah.
around 40 something games. And you're almost adding like another third a game. Say you do. I don't think any team's going to potentially make it play all those 50, 60 games, maybe 50 for sure. Um, that's just a lot, man. That's just a
And
lot.
think
It's
of,
a lot of miles
yeah,
on those athletes' bodies, and I don't know. You just need to add more roster. Go ahead.
for sure. And think about we haven't even mentioned really U.S. Open Cup, where I think some teams already last with the regular playoffs didn't really value it as high as other tournaments. Like you said, it's going to water down the season, but it's going to. Well, we'll talk about it later. It's going to have to prioritize events, and U.S. Open Cup will be at the bottom when you have teams in CCL who will want to show it on on an international level compared to a U.S. Open Cup where they might be playing lower tier teams or teams that are not traditionally that good. Like when LAFC lost to the Galaxy last year in US Open Cup, yeah, they were mad, but they were like, all right, well, on to the next thing. When the Galaxy lost that game at home, same thing. They were mad, but they were like, okay, on to the next thing. So it's like you said, it's just a lot to add to a calendar that's already packed. And obviously the league is going to want Leagues Cup to be, a top tier tournament because you're playing Liga MX. And I think teams will, in a way, value that. But once again, you have to be smart. What if a team is in the Supporter Shield race at that point already? What if it's like last year where LAFC, Philly, Austin, they're all in the mix, really fighting? Like they're gonna have to prioritize too because Leagues Cup, sure, while it's good and you're facing against that other competition, you have to think in the back of my mind, oh, we're getting to the playoffs and we might have to potentially play, X amount of games just to win MLS Cup. Whereas last year, where they played 3 and they got it, so it's like it's a lot, man. That's a lot of strategize.
Yeah, a lot of strategies too, and I would also say too. I think the out of like U.S. Open Cup, the Leagues Cup, to me, like right, if you're LAFC, Austin, or Phil, those teams that are playing in the CCL, right, the Concacaf Champions League, I think that's up there,
Yeah,
like the number one
absolutely.
priority, right? That's like to me,
Even
that's the
over
number one priority.
MLS, yeah, even
Yeah,
over for
that
sure.
is over. I would say the regular season,
Yeah,
right? We saw what Seattle did.
absolutely.
They ended up winning the tournament. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Having technical issues. Sorry guys about that. But I was saying Leagues Cup definitely is up there. And then it's the first time ever that we're having this tournament. So the league and the teams are going to want to have a great performance with that. So there's just a lot going on. And I'm not saying this is how teams are going to think or whatever, but you kind of have to assume that like there's no way they can play all these games and
Mhm.
prioritize every single tournament, every single game. And I just think, like I said earlier, the regular season, some of these games are going to be watered down. You're gonna have other players. You're gonna the academy kids or the LAFC two or the Galaxy twos, right? You're gonna get. I think that's a great opportunity for those guys, and
Sure.
that's gonna be going to see those guys come up and play. But I think it could just been done a little bit better with adding more roster. I wish they would have added a fourth DP or increase a little bit more salary. Maybe would have had a player like Chicho not leave, if they expanded the roster and everything like that. You could have paid him more, you could have kept them and all those different things. So, yeah, I get what the league is trying to do, but look, I think you also have to, if you're adding more games, you have to offset it with the other thing and limit the restrictions with that. Um, let's talk about obviously big game. Let's talk about the big game. We talked about that. Well, leading up to this game, at least on the Galaxy side, there's been a lot of vocalness about Chris Klein for a number of years, but I think this is a year that I think that it seems that we've seen already. The Galaxy, all Galaxy supporters, they came out. They're all together behind this. Look, not everybody, I think, agrees with the boycott or agrees with Chris Klein being out, but I think with everything that we said and how exciting this week is and this matchup, for some Galaxy fans, it's not going to seem that way because of how Chris Klein has run that team and still able to keep his job, which is to me is the craziest thing. The craziest thing. But yeah, give me your thoughts on this Chris Klein boycott or the LA Galaxy boycott because of Chris Klein, and obviously potentially not seeing as many Galaxy fans this Saturday.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because, like I mentioned, the Galaxy have a history with the Rose Bowl, and I think that the intrigue about this matchup originally was like, you see the Kobe Jones voiceover with the promo, like Greg Vanney played at the Rose Bowl. Like, there's ties to it, and it should have, it's a Galaxy home game. Like, it should be a party for them almost, in a way of like, hey, this is kind of like our home, what we created, back in the day, and the past history that we have of, the 5 championships, but. I mean, the fans have a right to protest. The fans have a right to be mad. I think that they've done it as respectfully as possible. They haven't really gotten out of line. I don't see. And at the end of the day, they're the ones that are spending their money to support the team, to buy merch, to go to the stadium, to, all of the above. So I don't see anything wrong with it. I think that the leaders of the supporters groups did the right thing in saying that we're, as leaders, doing this. We don't necessarily need everybody to follow us. If they want to and they should, great. If they don't, also fine. But I think there's going to be something to be said because the Rose Bowl is a one-off, right? Like, I think people are going to go because they already bought the tickets, maybe like families and stuff like that. But it's really going to be interesting when they play that first home game at Dignity Health Sports Park this season. Because if the stands are empty, I don't care what anybody says, they are going to have to make some decisions. And from what it seems like, everybody's saying that Chris Klein won't be fired or this and that. Those are decisions that are made, above anybody's pay grade or whatnot. But I think if the stands are empty, that starts dealing with revenue. And once players start getting involved, I think that changes the conversation. You already saw Ricky post something on Instagram about like, we need you guys. I'm telling you, let them play badly, let them get off to a bad start, and have Chicharito say a few things about the stands being empty, and I guarantee you things will start changing. So I don't know what the resolution is there because it's hard to just say, hey, fire this person and obviously Chris Klein is dealing with the suspension, so we don't really know how much of involvement he could even have. Like, people are saying he's not speaking, which I don't think he typically ever does anyway. But yeah, it's a tough situation. I wish that going into, I don't wish that for any team in general, but I wish that, for a game of this magnitude going into a season so exciting, that wouldn't be the case. But from what the reports are, over 70,000 tickets were sold. I think last time I saw Baxter put something out, the MLS record was set last year in Charlotte, 74,000. It's not far-fetched to think that maybe they could break it. I'm just surprised that they're not adamantly trying to promote that because that's what Charlotte did last year. They said, hey, we want to break this record. We need you guys to come to this game. Whereas this is like, okay, it's a possibility. We don't know if it will happen, but if they wanted to, they could easily do it. I mean, the stadium holds way more than 74,000. So, yeah, it's a tough situation, but I think Galaxy fans are in the right. And once again, I think if they start seeing during the season, Dignity Health Sports Park is a lot more empty and things are not going well, then I think the team has no choice but to try to make something change. I don't know what that resolution is, but something's going to have to happen.
Yeah, to me, it's just crazy because of, like you mentioned, the thing about this was bound to happen. Ricky Puig was going to be. I think Monica ended up asking him about what he thought about the fans boycott because I think, like I said this in previous pods before, if you're a player, if you're Chicharito, you're Ricky Puig, or any player that plays for the LA Galaxy, right? That kind of that wasn't your fault. Let's put it that not your fault, but now in a way, it becomes your responsibility because you play for the club. You're not going to go against your fans because I think no one's going to go against their fans. But also you got your boss, quote unquote, Chris Klein, who the fans don't respect and don't want him to be there. So you're like in this weird situation. The person that has to answer is the fans, Greg Vanney, obviously, right? And those are the people that have to answer those questions. And obviously, I think it's just adds such a weird work dynamic. When it just your fans don't want to be there, not because of you, but because of your boss. Your boss has been you right. If you're Ricky Puig or you're Chicharito, you're starting to find out like, okay, what does Chris Klein do or this or that? Like, I don't know. And you start to see and read, you're like, dang, they really don't like this dude. So if you're showing up to practice, like how I wonder like what the players' mindset is, right? Like, dang, we have to answer for what he's done, which is so weird. But like, it just goes to show that the head people at AEG and run the Galaxy, they just don't really care about the fans because
Mm,
look, there's just certain things like look, you and I have been covering the league for a while. Like, I think if that position was to be open, there'd be a number of GMs, regardless for wherever, Philly or whatever. Let's just put it anywhere. That would be an attractive job if you're a GM somewhere else trying to look for a job, right? Or you're looking to move out, or you're trying to go to the next step. Because I think anything that Chris Klein has done, which is I believe has been okay, mediocre. I think someone else that actually knows what they're doing and can produce more could really help elevate this team to the next level with all the hurdles he's put on the LA Galaxy with, now the cheating scandal that they can't bring a player during the summer transfer window. I think that's the biggest Achilles heel. And I don't know how you renew his contract. It goes to show that the Galaxy AEG does not care to know what Chris Klein is doing, because any other sports organization would be like, dude, we got to let you go.
mhm.
It's time to move on. And it's unfortunate. So I think that's because look, the signings of Ricky Puig, Martin Caceres, all came in the summer transfer window, and that helped the Galaxy get to where they were and
Yeah.
finish the season strong. Now they don't have that. And it's unfortunate because you're going to need that. Especially, we just talked about a team playing 50 games. You're playing way more games this season. There's no way. I know Ricky Puig is young and has those legs, but there's no way I can see them finishing out strong. I think they have a strong lineup, but the depth part and not being able to add players in the summer transfer window, I think it's really going to hurt them. And that's all because of Chris Klein. And to your point, I think fans are in the right here. They've been in the right. And if you don't take care of your fan base, you don't take care of your customers, then what are you doing as a club? I don't know. And that's not to say like everybody at the LA Galaxy that works at the Galaxy is like Chris Klein. There's some amazing people that work at the LA Galaxy.
Right.
Amazing people. But it's unfortunate for them because it overshadows that by what Chris Klein has done and how he's portrayed and stuff. Let's talk about the weather. It's probably potentially going to rain this Saturday. We're going to have a rainy El Tráfico. What does that mean? I don't think that's gonna. And we know the Rose Bowl's outdoors. There's no cover.
Where to
Like
hide?
nowhere to hide. So you bring your raincoats, bring your umbrellas and stuff like that, your ponchos or whatever. What do you make of this potential raining at the Rose Bowl this Saturday?
This is very fitting because when it rains in LA, the traffic gets worse. So it's perfect for the opportunity. Now, I mean, listen, it kind of does suck a little bit that the weather in LA is 95% of the year great, and we're supposed to have a pretty tough weekend when this is happening. But I don't think it'll affect the game too much. I know there's players that actually like playing in rain and enjoy those elements. So I don't know if we will see too much of the game affected. But I think that for all the emphasis we're putting on this game, we do have to remember, like, it's the first game of the season, and I don't know if we'll see we've never seen this rivalry so early in the year where it's just like game number one. So I always think about that when I'm trying to think about how this game's going to play out, because neither of these teams are probably at their best. Chicharito just was dealing with a little bit of something he picked up at Coachella. I don't know if it's an injury or what it was or what it wasn't. And then, I mean, both rosters are not the deepest, so sure, LAFC is coming off the championship, but you factor in they don't have Chicho anymore. They're trying to figure out who's going to be that number 9. I mean, they have obviously a crazy amount of attacking talent. And then you look at the Galaxy and you're like, I don't even know what formation Greg Vanney wants to play. Like, the people are trying to say he should play 3-5-2. He doesn't seem like he wants that to be the case. But if I'm him, I'm throwing Dejan out there, especially against LAFC, because he loves playing those games apparently. So it's a lot of question marks. And then I forgot who it was that last week said something like that. One of the teams was like, hey, this is the first game. And I think it was Vanney. Like, this is the first game. Like, it's a big deal. We have to be up for it, but we also have to realize that. So maybe the weather will play a factor. Maybe it won't. I hope it doesn't. It's not too bad just for the people that are in attendance and the spectacle. But I don't think the rain's going to stop too much of whatever the party's going to be inside the stadium, outside the stadium, and around this weekend.
Yeah, look, if this game does break the record of the 74,000, it would be historic with everything going on with the boycott, with the fans not aligning. It just goes to show, and I think it's just a historic, matchup between obviously we see Ricky Puig, Carlos Vela, Apple TV, and everything all involved. once were. These two teams aren't as deep as they once were, but I think there's still going to be a lot of excitement there going on
For sure.
with both of these clubs. All right, let's talk about expectations for the year. Let's start off with the LA Galaxy. What do you expect with them? How do you expect them to finish in the regular season? They have a shot for a Leagues Cup, US Open Cup, Supporter Shield. Give me overall thoughts with them in the regular season, and then we'll go into them on potentially winning any of those trophies.
I think this team is talented, man. I think that from the conversations kind of going around in the offseason, I think people are forgetting how talented the team is. And you mentioned it earlier with the additions they made in the summer with Cáceres and Brugman and Ricky. I think that like they have maybe one of the more talented midfields in the league. I guess my question about them is like, how much are you going to get from Douglas Costa, which is what we were saying when we got signed anyway. So that really hasn't changed. But can you get him to be effective? I think we saw that in flashes last season, very few. But when you're thinking about a team that is predicated on winning championships and being successful, and you have an agent Chicharito, you have an agent Douglas Costa, like you need. That's why we've been beating this drum for a while. But Dejan should be out there. He should be playing because he's younger. He's hungry. You could tell he wants more minutes. He proves it when he goes on the field. He scores. So I think that what I mentioned earlier about the formations is going to be interesting to see if Vanny could figure that 3-5-2 out, because he clearly wants to try it, but he clearly doesn't feel comfortable in it, or his players don't feel that comfortable in it. But I think if you move a player like Julian, you kind of start thinking about that. Like, okay, obviously if he was there, maybe a 3-5-2 wouldn't have been the best idea, or you would have to move him around. But now that he's not there, I think you could theoretically play a 3-5-2 easily with the talent they have. But once again, their roster is not that deep. For as much crap as they gave Kevin Cabral and Samuel Grandsir, like I think any Galaxy fan would have probably enjoyed having them on the roster right now. When you look at what their options are, people are waiting on Efra to maybe have a better year. We've been saying that for the past few seasons as well. So it's just a lot of questions. Yeah. But I think that my thing is like it goes back to the same thing: is defensively, can they be solid? And that's really it, because moving forward, that team from the midfield up is talented, and you never know what's going to happen with injuries and things like that. The depth is, I feel like saying the depth is a problem doesn't do justice, because I feel like a lot of teams in the league are that way, and especially going into this year where there's so many competitions, that might be an issue. But I don't see why this team can't be in the same range they finished in last year. I don't think they're one of the best teams in the West. I certainly think they're better than middle of the pack, 7-8. So I see them in that 4-5-6 range again. And listen, like if they could pull that off, given all the stuff that's going on, all the noise that's going on, I think that's pretty good. It's unfortunate because maybe that helps Chris Klein's situation, but I still think Greg Vanney's a really good coach. He got a player like Mavinga who he knows, like he has these guys, Marky Delgado, who he knows, like Raheem Edwards, players that he's had before. He knows what he's doing. And I think that he knows that this year is high pressure. He needs to kind of prove something a little more. And listen, I don't know. I kind of agree with Vanny and Chicharito when they say this offseason, like, hey, if that game against LAFC would have gone to extra time in the playoffs, we probably would have won that. I kind of believe that. I mean, it's hard to say.
They had the momentum. We were there. It was insane.
Right. Yeah. And we're talking about like they win that game, they have to play Austin, and then, they could go to the Cup. So it's a tough way to lose that way, obviously, with the late goal, and you're on the road against a rival. But if that game would have went a little longer, maybe they would have won it. We could be having a whole different conversation.
They were the hottest team going into the playoffs. They were the hottest team, and I felt whoever won that game versus LAFC versus the Galaxy in the playoffs was going to go to the championship. I don't know, like the championship is different because Philly was tough. Philly was a Gareth Bale game tying goal away from winning the MLS Cup, right? So. But yeah, I really felt that the Galaxy LAFC, whoever won that game, or was going to go to the final, everything else is different. No, to me, this team is talented. I think my expectations for them is tricky because look, the biggest thing to me is the summer transfer window. Like Julian just left. Kudos to Julian; he deserved the move and everything. Going to FC Barcelona. It's just so tough because if Greg Vanney, hopefully he doesn't go the same way of not wanting to play Dejan or not wanting to start Dejan with Chicharito, but it's like I think once for 90 minutes you're good, but like when you look at the bench, right? As of right now, it's tough. Who do you look for at the bench? Who's going to come in and make that sub? Who's going to come in and score? Who's going to come in and be that midfielder and give you that push? Who's going to come in goal scorer? I guess it could be Dejan if he keeps him back on the keeps him in the bench. But I think you're going to have to use all your weapons, especially for this game too. They got to what, April 24th, 29th to still add more players and stuff until the MLS window closes. But this is the Galaxy team that is going to be moving forward. You can't add anybody. You can certainly have players move on. There could certainly have injuries. I'm assuming you could add players through. I don't know. Can you add players through the MLS? I don't know. Or is it just international transfer?
Yeah, just international.
Okay, did the international transfer window during the summertime. So I mean, that thing is just like it's just tricky for me. But I still feel like I think certain things are going to work for the LA Galaxy if they have a solid season. Other teams are not going to prioritize the regular season. Like I said, I don't think LAFC will prioritize the regular season like other teams, and I think that's going to help Galaxy move up. I still think I'm with you. I think they're middle of the pack, like a 4 or 5, because I think they're just missing a little bit more of that depth. But I certainly see them finishing there, 4 or 5. I do see Chicharito. Look, in 2021 he scored 17 goals. In 2022 last season he scored 18 goals. I feel like right there, I think his over-under is right there, 17, 18 goals. Look, if he gives you 17, 18 goals in a 34 game season, it's about half a goal a game, so that's good. That's good at his age and what he's doing. Yeah, and I think a lot of those too. I think he ended up missing a couple PKs, so he would have been right at 20, right,
Right.
over 20s. So I think that's going to be good. I do see a player like Dejan. I hope he just gets more minutes because he's just so fun to watch and what he does on the field. Look, he scored 12 goals in 34 games, but look, if we look at the minutes, he barely played 90 minutes, and he was able to score 12 goals. So if he's able to get 90 minutes, you would have to assume those goals are going to double. You would have to assume, right? Saying 24 goals for Dejan Joveljic in 2023 is not far-fetched if he gets to play 90-minute games. So I think if Dejan is able to score 20 to 24 goals this season, then you got to watch out. Then you have potentially 2 players for the Golden Boot race, Chicharito and Dejan. You have another season with Ricky Puig, who's going to be feeding the ball, marking the Gala, Brugman. I think to me they have one of the best midfields in the game. Just because of what we've seen, what Ricky was able to do, and now that you have a whole another season together, they're just going to get better there in the midfield. They're going to understand where Ricky likes the ball more, how he likes to play, where Marky needs to play, where Brugman needs to play. I think that midfield is really strong, and I think it's the strongest one in MLS. And I feel like Ricky Puig could potentially be the MVP this season because of what we've seen him do like half a season. So I think MVP potentially candidate for Ricky Puig, and then you have a Golden Boot winner potentially in Dejan Joveljic right there, because there's just so much going in. Anything you add? Any other players you like to add or you potentially could see from the LA Galaxy?
Yeah, I think that I think the signings that I think Tyler Boyd could be a good piece.
That's a good
I
signing
think
as well.
Memo as well. I think he's hungry to kind of show like he could prove himself. I think that Vanny's a big fan of him, so I think Memo could be a good compliment. And to my point is like kind of like I feel like last year the whole thing was Vanny never found what his best lineup was, and like you said, towards the end of the season they started getting hot because they made these signings. But it's like, how long is it going to take him this season to find that best lineup? Because remember, before he did make all those signings in the summer last year, he always said, like, I'd rather have made these in the beginning of the year, not in the summer, because sometimes you don't know how that's going to work. You have to bring in new guys. You have to change things around. Luckily for the Galaxy and luckily for Vanny, they work tremendously. Now, like you said, you have a full offseason with these people. You have a preseason with these people. They're ready. Ricky seems the most energized. Like, I saw him during media day. He was like, dribbling a soccer ball around a hotel. Like, he was just happy. But you're still going to have to add some to it. And I think you brought up a really good point. Their benefit is going to be that a lot of teams might not prioritize certain competitions the way that they should. If I'm the Galaxy, and I said this last year, I would go all in on US Open Cup. Like, they had the road to get there last year. They obviously get, let down at home in that one game, but it's winnable. And what changes energy, what changes things? Win a championship, win a trophy. You can't discount like, oh, well, it's just US Open Cup. Well, US Open Cup is going to give you that bid to go to CCL, like things like that. And I'm like, that's the way that things are lining up this year. Like that should be something that they should focus on. I mean, I just see it from that way of trying to alleviate a little bit of the pressure and the stress. Like obviously you want to win MLS Cup, you want to win Supporters Shield, but US Open Cup is feasible, is there. It doesn't seem like it's going to be the hardest, given, Leagues Cup and everything that's around. So I think they should have a good year. But I always say this, when you think about older players and injuries factoring in, like if Chicharito has to miss some time, or Douglas Costa has to miss some time, like I hope nobody does, but that changes everything, because then you're talking about a team that these are the players that you need. It doesn't matter what their age is. They're DP players. You need them to perform. And historically in MLS, if your DPs are not performing, you're not going to do well. So it kind of is interesting there. But I do agree with you. Chicharito is who he is. He's going to score. And if he has somebody like Ricky Puig giving him assist and putting the ball where he needs it, I don't see it far-fetched that he could score. I just hope that the two-striker system is something that works out for them, because I think everybody in MLS and that follows the league and the Galaxy wants to see that. So hopefully it does work out.
Yeah, look, just to finish off, potentially we could see your boy Efrain Alvarez have a breakout year. We've been waiting for this number of years. We'll see if he's able to do it. He's been having a solid preseason. We'll see if that continues in the regular season. Let's switch over. Let's talk about LAFC. Expectations for the club. Leagues, Cup, US Open Cup. They got a lot of tournaments. They're one of the top. They're one of the 4 or 5 teams they're gonna play. They has an opportunity to play all these games. What are your expectations for them, and also potentially what they could win in terms of trophies?
I will say good luck to Steve Cherundolo, because I don't know how the hell he's going to manage all of this. I sat down and talked to him about 2 weeks ago, and I was like, what do you do? He's like, well, we're just going to try to win everything. And I love that ambition, but like we mentioned before, it's going to be very difficult. Listen, man, this is a championship team, right? They're coming in with that energy. The thing about LAFC is they've always been that type of club, like that energy that like we're going to be top. We're going to, even in bad seasons, maybe some of that stemmed from Bob Bradley. But what Steve was able to do in his first year was nothing short of remarkable. And even though you see, like, obviously the departure of Chicho is huge, Gareth Bale's retirement, but I'm like, this team, people say that there was a lot of turnover, and I don't really believe that or agree with that.
Because I don't feel the sense as much. Bale
didn't really do much besides that. I mean, I want to say that in the sense that he didn't do much in the season, but he scored the goal that got him there. Sure. Christian Theo, I'm like, I wouldn't even add him to the list because I don't remember seeing him play more than 3 times with LAFC. And they were ambitious. Like, they were ambitious about going out and getting players. I think his name is Stipe. That's how you pronounce it. I'm not positive. But from all accounts, it's like he's somebody that should be able to really help and boost. I think Dennis Bouanga is going to have a year. I think he's a really good player. Steve loves him. Steve talks highly about him. So I think he's going to have a really good season. Then you have somebody like Mahalo, who Bob, since the really beginning, was adamant about this guy is really good and he's going to be next. So I feel like Cherundolo is going to have to give him those chances as well, because he kind of sees that. Then you talk about the midfield, and sure, it's a little slim right now, but you still have that same 3 for now. You still have Sifu, you still have Elia, you still have Kellen. So they should be confident in that. What happens with LAFC is, do those pieces move in the summer that they expect? Is Sifu gone? Is Chiki gone? Because Chiki, I think, maybe the most improved player for LAFC last season in terms of how Steve wanted defensively to set that team up and watch them kind of transition a little bit better, defend a little deeper, but be able to be more efficient. And Chiki, I think the early criticisms of him were that he couldn't really center, he couldn't pass the ball too well in attacking situations. Well, he delivered one right on the money to Gareth Bale when it counted. So I think those are 2 players that you really have to watch. But from what JT has been able to do these past years, they, unlike the Galaxy, seem like they always have a plan in place. If one player's going, somebody's coming in. And you can't say that they've whiffed on too many signings. I feel like a lot of the signings they've made have been solid. Maybe a few here or there weren't, but I think that it's feasible for them to honestly run it back. I think that they should be an MLS Cup favorite. It's just, it is what it is. But because of the conversations we had about the competitions that are happening this season, CCL should be number one, because you have to remember they almost won it already too. It was a weird one. It wasn't, it wasn't a normal one, but they almost won it. I think that's number one for them. You have to see the Galaxy. I mean, the Sounders go and play the Club World Cup and be like, wow, if we could get to that stage, like massive. They already in 5 years have blown this club up to proportions that they probably couldn't have expected. So CCL should hands down be number one. And because of that, you might have to sacrifice a lot in the season, points early. Supporter Shield probably shouldn't be on their mind, feasibly, because there's going to be teams that are probably gunning for that. And I think Philly's going to be right up there with them too. But I think CCL, they can make a run if that team. The other thing about that is because their CCL would be before the summer transfer window. So they will have that full squad all the way through that CCL run, because the finals are usually around May, I believe. So they'll have that team with Sifu. If he is going to move, they'll have him most likely still there, Cheeky. So I think that beginning part of the year, they really have to focus. But you think about, they have the opener this weekend. Then they go and play, I think on the road. Then they have a home game. Then they have CCL. Like it's crazy already off rip in March. So if I'm Steve, I'm saying, hey, let's go all in. And player wise, it's the same thing. Like Carlos Vela realized what he needed to do last season and kind of change things a little bit, be more of a facilitator, play a little bit of a role, and it worked out perfectly for him. He was still efficient. From what it seems, he seems healthier than maybe he has. I don't know if it's because he's doing things differently in preparation or whatnot, but I think if he's efficient enough, like, that ball, he's still going to be able to score if he gets the ball on his left foot. But I think now, opposed to other years, is like he doesn't have to do it all on his own. And I think not having Chicho there will have a little bit of an effect on that, because him and Chicho seem to really be able to get together last year and click and had those moments. But I think they're going to be fine, man. I think they should be in the conversation for at least CCL. When you look at the MLS teams that are going to be there, and because they have the history in the past there, the season will be a little different. But listen, all LAFC, if they're thinking about the way that this playoff format's going to get announced, all they're saying is like, yo, if we could, let's finish top 4 in the league. If we could, because obviously having home field further as that goes, it's going to benefit them more than it would a lot of teams in MLS, because we know how BMO Stadium is. Energy is there. But besides that, the Leagues Cup to me is such a question mark. But if they have success in CCL, I think that predicates what they do in the Leagues Cup, right? Because you're kind of matching them against Liga MS competition. And listen, if I win CCL, Leagues Cup, cool. Y'all have fun over there. Like, I already got CCL. I'm good on Leagues Cup. Like, I'm going to try, but it's not going to be that serious. But if they have a sour taste in CCL, maybe they see Leagues Cup as like, all right, we need to show against, Liga MX that we are the elite of this league. So I think for them, it's a little different because they are champions and they're going to want to showcase any chance they get that they are, the top of the top. But you have to prioritize. You have no other choice but to not prioritize. And we have it clear: CCL and everything else after that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they're definitely going to make a strong push for CCL. Depending with that, and I think, look, we've always seen how Carlos Vela, whenever they play the Liga MX teams, he's always up for that, and that's one game these are those games he's always excited for. Even the MLS All-Star game last season. So yeah, I definitely see them having somewhat of a deep run in the Leagues Cup, depending how that shapes. And I think also, look, you mentioned a great point, Sifu. I think Sifu and Cheeky could potentially leave this summer. And I think that opens up the doors for them to potentially, I think that works with them potentially being able to sign another EDP and other players and all these different things with the salary restrictions and all the different things that, ultimately led to Chicho leaving. But I think, to me, LAFC is in a good position. They could pick and choose what tournaments, what games they if they decide to prioritize, because, as ambitious as a club is, I don't think you could, I don't want to sell them short, but I think potentially playing 60 games and you include national team games and stuff. So I don't think the way they're set up right now, any team in MLS has the depth to play 60 games. You got to open it up more and be able to get more players, more quality players, and all those different things to potentially win all those different type of trophies. But yeah, I think a big player like Bouanga, to me, Bouanga is going to be an MVP candidate. We've already seen him in the preseason, but I think he scored 8 goals last season. Or excuse me, I think he scored 2 or 3 goals, 2 massive goals. Let me get this correct. He scored 3 goals in the regular season. He's going to have a big season. I think he's going to be MVP candidate. He's going to win. I think he'll probably play more as a false nine there. And, he's going to potentially carry all the workload. And another player with him is Mahala. He had 8 big goals. He's the one that scored 8 goals last season. He had a couple bangers outside the 18. I think he's also going to have potentially probably going to be a starter there. I haven't seen any of the preseason. They said Stipe looks good, but I would put Mahala. I think Mahala definitely deserves that starting role. And then you just have so many things for them going on individually and all these things. The goalkeeper situation is also going to be interesting. Is it going to be John McCarthy or is it going to be the Elgin, the new guy from England? So there's a lot of different things there. And I think they have a strong midfield. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how they do moving forward. A lot of excitement. They got a lot of things to do. Andy, let's finish off with this. Saturday's game. Obviously, we talked about it, everything. Let's talk about predictions. What do you think on this game? Who do you think is winning? Who do you got winning? Who's scoring the goals? Give me a score prediction and who scores the goals.
My prediction is Mother Nature's weak. She's not going to come out. It's going to be downpouring the whole day. I've thought about this, man. I don't know. I want to say the Galaxy are going to win this game based off energy. I feel like a lot of the Tráficos we've seen, besides the playoffs, there's just a certain energy the Galaxy bring to it. But, man, not having Julian on that team really does something for me because he used to turn into a monster when they would play LAFC. So I'm going to go with LAFC just because of that and because they're coming off of a championship season. I think we're going to get goals. We always do in the Tráfico, so I'm not going to put it I'm not going to say it's going to be a low-scoring game, but let's go. Let's go 3-2. I like 3-2. Why not? 3-2 LAFC. Chicharito gets one because if he plays, I'm hoping he does. He's saying that he's not injured, so let's hope that he's out there good. Get Chicharito one. We're going to give Efra one because he likes to score in these big stadiums.
Yeah.
So we'll go Chicharito and Efra and the LAFC. Man, Boanga got to get one just because of what the team looks like right now. We'll give Vela one because of the star power. And then one random one is going to be like a set piece like with Murillo or something like that. So we'll go 3-2. I'm expecting a good game because all we've talked about this whole podcast and everything we mentioned, it still doesn't matter. It's still a rivalry. It could be the first game of the season. It could be in Madrid. It could be in Pasadena. It could be wherever. And they're going to play this game with a high intensity level. And I think that it won't take long for that to settle in this game. So I'm excited, man. Hopefully it lives up to the billing, but it typically always does.
Yeah. I would say I'm going to say I want a lot of goals. These games always usually a lot of goals. I'm going to be a little aggressive here. I'm going to say 4-3. Okay. I'm going to say 4-3. I want 7 goals in this game. I know that's crazy.
Touchdown.
I know that's crazy. I'm being ambitious here. I know it. I'm saying 4-3, and I give the edge to LAFC. I just think that they're a little bit more of a complete team. They have a lot more of the core pieces there. They Bell, we said Chicho. I think Chicho's the biggest loss there, but I think they've always had like a rotating 3 up top. So I think a player like Mahala comes in and steps up. For the LAFC side, scores a goal. I think Vela has, always like these big games. I say Vela, Boanga, Mahala gets in there, and then you have I'm gonna give one to Kellen Acosta off a set piece. I'll give. We're freezing here. I think we're back. I'll give one to Chicharito. Just to give hope, I'll give one to Douglas Costa. Got to give one to Douglas Costa there. And then the last one, I give another random Martin Caceres. He comes in, gets a header there. So
what are the chances you see at least one penalty called? I think at least one PK. At least
who's going to take it? That'd be crazy. That would be crazy.
I don't have any positive answers for that one.
Yeah. Well, look, Andy, I appreciate you, man. That's going to wrap things up for this episode. Andy, I appreciate you being on, man. I'll see you this weekend. For everybody, make sure to give Andy a follow at AndyDLC on Twitter. That's going to wrap things up. So for Gio, this is Andy. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bring an umbrella.
Bring an umbrella. That's true.